Okay. So we'll pick the item called as APR netting. So already we discussed the APR netting concept. If one party is acting as a supplier and customer, so we have a company called as X Corporation. So we have a party called as X Corporation. From AP side, we have invoice with that same party. So we have to pay 10,000 to X Corporation. If you look at AR books, from AR side, you may have 25,000 against that party. Organization is X Corporation. We are procuring goods or we are rendering the services from X Corporation, and we need to pay 10,000 to X Corporation. At the same time, X Corporation is procuring some material or they are taking service from our organization. That is the reason from AR side, we can see 25,000. It means X Corporation as per AP or supplier, as per AR or customer. If one party is acting as supplier and customer, instead of we pay to X Corporation and X Corporation will pay to us, instead of doing that, we can do the settlement. So here in this example, we can settle up to 10,000. We no need to pay 10,000, they no need to pay. Here 10, remaining 15 they will pay. So we can settle up to 10,000. We can settle up to 10,000. Remaining 15,000 X Corporation will pay. So that's how you can do the settlement. So if you want to do the settlement as per application, so we have to configure the system to support the same case. So first we'll look into the setups. To implement APR netting, what setups are required? Let's talk about the setups. After discussing about the setup part, we'll talk about the process which need to be followed to perform the settlement. So to do this settlement, as we discussed, we need the same party as a supplier and customer. That means first we'll create customer. Our customer name is say X Corporation. And create supplier also. Create supplier name also X Corporation. Now create one payment method, since we are going to process dummy payments. When you say netting, it's an internal settlement, internal just within the organization without paying. We are doing the settlement. Since we are going to do the settlement, it is not real payment. You are not paying through check or you are not paying through other method. Since we are going to do the settlement through netting, you create one payment method as a netting payment method. Create netting payment method. And this netting payment method, we have to assign at bank account level. So that level, there will be another setup which will become mandatory. So let's make a note. Create the document category, or you can call as document sequence category. Reality, we are not going to do that complete setup, not required. Since there is a recommendation we have to do, we'll discuss. Let's make a note. Say create document sequence category as well as sequence. Create document sequence and create netting bank account. We are going to do the settlement not by using the real bank account. We are going to use the dummy bank account. We are going to use the dummy bank account. For dummy bank account, we created the system as a netting bank account. For netting purpose, we are going to use the dummy bank account. Call it as netting bank account. Create netting bank account. And create receipt method for netting purpose. Create netting receipt method. Create netting receipt method. So these are the basic setups we have to complete. These setups will support to execute the process. Now, what is the process we are going to test? As we discussed, we'll create one invoice in the payables. So create invoice in AP, $10,000, and create, you can call as invoice or transaction. Create invoice in AR with $25,000. Now, settlement we can do up to 10,000, remaining 15,000 would be due from X corporation. To do the settlement, we have to create netting agreement. To perform the settlement, we need to create the netting agreement. You can make a note, create netting agreement. Create netting agreement. Based on the netting agreement, we have to perform the settlement. Say, instead of saying create, say perform netting settlement. Perform netting settlement. So when you perform the netting settlement, automatically system creates netting payment in AP, netting receipt in receivables. Since settlement we are doing up to 10,000, with the 10,000, system creates netting payment in AP, and with the same 10,000, system creates netting receipt in receivables. Just make a note. System creates, okay, system creates netting payment in AP, netting receipt in AR. With the settlement amount, max we can settle 10,000. With the 10,000, system will create netting payment and netting receipt. When system will create the netting payment, system will use netting payment method. And when you create the netting, when system will create the netting receipt, it will use netting receipt method. For payment and receipt, system will use dummy bank account, that is netting bank account. So first we'll go and complete the setups, then we'll execute the process. So create customer from receivables. Search for task called as create customers. Task is create customer. Click on the same. X corporation. Select reference data set. Create customer address, or you can call as site. Set address purpose. Address purpose for billing and for shipping also. Just create mapping between ship to and bill to. Save and close. And click on account number and override profile class. Go to profile history tab, go to actions, click on correct record. Select So select the profile class, what we created as a standard. System is defaulting, collector, payment terms, and statement cycles. Save and close. Default the same to site also. Click on site number. Go to profile history. Click on create site profile. Defaulted, say save and close. Save and close. Click on that. Now we'll create the supplier of the same name. Go to suppliers task. Create custom supplier. The supplier name is X Corporation. Relationship should be spend authorized. Tax organization type you choose as required. Click on create. System will create profile. Now we have to create the address. So click on plus icon to create the address. So X Corp address. Select addresses belongs to which country. Select postal code and set address purpose. Say ordering and do remit to. Say save and close. Now create site against the address. Select address. and update the site name as required and save. So go to invoicing tab and you may set default invoice and payment currencies. If you don't have any setup at invoice options related to invoice and payment currency fields. Go to payments, set any one of the currency as a default, any one of the method as a default. Set any one of the payment method as a default. And go to site assignments to assign the site to BU. Click on auto create assignments. The site is assigned to BU. Reason the current user is acting as a procurement agent for this BU. Save and close. Click on save and close. So we created same party as a supplier and customer. Now let's create netting payment method. Netting payment method. Go to setup and maintenance task. Search for payment methods. Task is manage payment methods. Click on plus icon. The payment method, the purpose is for netting purpose. Arbitrary netting. And when you create the netting payment method, just make sure enable for use in payable checkbox is enabled. That's all. So save and close. Done. Just complete document sequence related setups. First we'll create the category. Go to search. You have to navigate to global search. So sequence category. Here is the task. Manage document sequence categories. Click on plus icon. Select application as a payables. Categories, ERP3, netting. The same you can take as a name. Select module as a payables. So select table. Provide the table as AP checks all. So this document category for the purpose of payments. So just provide the table name as AP checks all. Now say save and close. Now create sequence. Application document sequences. Here is the task. So manage document sequences, or you can use this task also, any task. So click on document sequences, click on the plus icon, ER quickly, netting sequence. And select application as a payables. Select module name also, payables. So select type as, say, gapless numbering. What level you want to set? Say legal entry level. Select today's date. And what are the sequence we created? That sequence we have to assign to category. So this is just sequence. If you expand this, your initial value is 1. You can change this sequence. We are going to assign to category, which we created before this sequence. Click on plus icon. Select category. Here is the one. Say OK. This method and all you don't need to set. And select our legal entity. Our legal entity is financial services legal entity. Say save and close. So we created document sequence category under document sequence. Now create dummy bank account as netting bank account. Create bank first. Save it. Just 1 second. We'll take the number branch, which we call as routing number. We'll just make a note. We can use it. So we created a bank. Now let's create branch. Select the same bank. Click on create branch. The branch name is Yapitri Dummy Branch. Save and close. Now go to view branches. Yes, we have one branch. Against this branch, create dummy bank account, or you can call as netting bank account. The name you can give as a dummy or netting. Any name you can provide. If you want to give just netting, yes, you can give as a netting. And create account. Reality, that is dummy bank branch account. You may provide the name as purposes netting as a netting. Now I'm giving the name as ERP3 netting account. Provide dummy account number. Select currency. Select our legal entity. And yes, we need this dummy bank account or netting bank account within the payables and the receivables. Payables to create the netting payment and receivables to create netting receipt. So how system will understand this bank account as a netting bank account? If you enable the checkbox called as netting account, then system will allow us to use in the netting process. So make sure you are enabling this checkbox. That's how system can understand the difference between the real bank account and the dummy bank account, which we use for netting purpose. Just create the document. So netting. So we are not going to print any checks. You can select any one of the format. Provide document numbering. Say OK. Assign this bank account to our business unit. Go to business unit access. Click on plus icon. Select our B unit. And here we have to assign document category and payment method. So we create a document category and that we mapped with the document sequence. And also we created netting payment method. Those definitions we have to associated bank account level. Select payment method. So this selection, the document category selection is make it as a mandatory. That is a Oracle recommendation. Reality, we are not going to generate any numbering here, but sometimes system will not perform the settlement. In that case, Oracle strongly recommends you make sure you are providing the document category and payment method at bank account level so that system will be able to create the settlement. And anyway, system also need payment method called as netting. And even we don't need the category. So these two we have to specify. So that is the reason we created document sequence category and to sequence. Just say OK. Save and close. So we created netting bank account. When you create in the system, create as a netting reality, that is dummy bank account. You create as a netting bank, netting branch, netting account. From receivable side, to create the receipt, when you perform the settlement, we have to set up receipt method for netting. Go to receipt classes and methods. The task is manage receipt classes and methods. And Oracle is providing receipt class and method name. That method we have to assign to our business unit and bank account. The class Oracle is providing, we no need to create. The method name also Oracle is providing, we no need to create. But we have to make sure the netting method is assigned to our bank account and to business unit. When you say bank account, netting bank account. Search with ORA. Here you can see the receipt class which Oracle is provided. So just click on the netting class called as ORA APR netting. And within the receipt class, we have a receipt method. Within this receipt class, we have a receipt method. The method name also ORA APR netting. Now this method assigned to our BU and to bank account. To assign this method to our BU and to bank account, click on plus icon, ignore the message, select our business unit. Select our business unit. Select the dummy bank what we created, or you may call as netting bank account. Okay, netting bank, netting branch, netting account. And select receivable activities. And save and close. Click on save and close. When system will create netting receipt, system will use the same receipt method, whatever we assign to our BU and bank account. So we are ready with the basic setups. Now we'll create these two transactions from AP and AR, and we'll see how agreement we can create and how we can perform the settlement, and final how system can create the result of settlement with the netting payment and receipts. So create AP invoice with $10,000. Payables, invoices. Go to task list. So create invoice. So our supplier is X Corporation. Enter invoice number. As we planned, enter invoice amount with $10,000. Enter invoice lines. Enter distribution combination. You can proceed with any one of the random account code combination for testing. Validate this invoice. Okay, it's validated and no approvals required. Switch to receivables to create the transaction. Go to billing task. Go to task list. So create transaction. Select transaction source as invoice transaction source. Select our customer. Just 1 second. So we'll go and check the customer level, what are the reference data set we use, same is updated at BU level or not. Business unit set assignment. It is not updated. Yes, save and close. Yes. Go to create transaction to create the transaction. Since the reference data set is not in the sync between the BU and the customer, we are not able to select the customer within the BU. Select transaction source, type is defaulting. Now select customer. Enter description. The transaction amount is $25,000. Say complete and close. And make sure you are taking payment terms as immediate. Now go to actions, click on edit distribution. It looks the auto accounting is not deriving the required account. Choose whatever the revenue account you require. Save and close. Say complete and close. Yeah. So in the payables and receivables, what are the transactions we created? Those we created with the today as a due date. Now we want to create netting agreement. So by default, will not get access to netting agreement. If you go to payables or receivables, you can access netting agreement, but by default, you don't get it. So we navigated to accounts receivable, nothing but receipt workbench. Here, we need netting related task. If you go to payables, under payments, you should be able to see netting related task. We are not able to find anything. The reason we have to assign the role to user. Go to security console. Select user. Click on add role. Search for netting. So this role we need to assign to our user. So this role is available since it is a test environment, practice environment. But when we are working, this role will not be available. Only privilege would be available. So we have to create the role. If it is a fresh instance, what we have to do? Go to create role. You can say APR netting. Select role category as job role. Click on next. So we are going to add the function security policy. Here you search for netting. Here you have only privilege. If it is a fresh instance, you don't see this netting manager APR. You don't find it. Since it is a practice environment or test environment, this is delivered by Oracle. But in the fresh instance, you don't find any job role for netting. Only you will have a privilege. You have to include this privilege. Click on next. You know how to set the data security policies. Already discussed. Same you have to set. Next. You may assign to user or you can assign later. So this is how we need to create the custom netting role by including a netting privilege which Oracle is providing. Find this difference. In practice instance, you don't need to create. If it is a fresh instance, if it is a client environment, yes, we need to create. You don't find any predefined netting role for the netting, kind of job role, we can say. You don't find any netting job role in fresh environment. So make a note. Fine. So we assigned a role and submit synchronization. Task is not responding. We can submit the same from scheduled processes. You can wait, or else if you want to see the updates immediate base, you can try with the logout and login. It may reflect, or else you have to wait for a few more minutes. So we'll go on the review if the tasks are added. You can go to receivables or payables. If it is a payables, go to payments. Go to task list. So we are not able to find any netting related roles here, netting related tasks. So we'll wait for some time and we'll check. Meantime, we'll check from receivables. Here reflected. Here you can see customer and supplier balance netting. We assigned netting role. Because of the role, this user is able to access these two tasks. Now we'll create the netting agreement. The same should reflect from payables also. Go to payments. Yes, now it is reflecting. You can access these two tasks from payables and receivables. No difference. You can perform this netting agreement creation and settlement from payable side or receivable side. So first, we'll create the netting agreement. Click on Manage Netting Agreements. To create the agreement, click on plus icon. And select our business legal entity. The legal entity is financial services, and agreement name. We are going to create agreement for X Corp. We are going to create the agreement for X Corp and accept all the defaults. And system is taking netting account because we have only one netting account which is created against this legal entity. Even we are selecting the legal entity in the agreement, the netting happens within the business unit. We cannot perform the netting between the two business units. So X Corporation will act as a supplier for BU1 and X Corporation may be customer for BU2. If this is the case, we cannot perform the netting. So X Corporation is acting as supplier and customer to our ERP3 financial services business unit. Then you can perform the netting. If the X Corporation is supplier for one BU and another BU customer relationship, we cannot perform the settlement. The netting we can do within the BU, not across the BUs. But we don't select the BU, we select legal entity. And that legal entity, whatever is under this, the business unit which is under this legal entity, that system will take as a criteria. So you can accept all these or else you can set how you required. Oldest, most recent, You can set that accordingly, system will select the transactions. And if you are going to perform netting for the transactions from receivables and invoices from the payables which are involved in the different currencies, you can use netting currency rule as net within the each currency, or else you can say you want to do the netting only for specific currency related AP and AR transactions. You can select single currency also. You can select specific currency, or else at a time if you want to do the netting for different currency related transactions from payables and receivables, yes, you can accept the default. Now here we have to set the criteria. Pay group. So when system is going to perform the netting, which transaction system should select from payables? You may specify specific pay group related invoices system has to select. We are not selecting any criteria here, leave it as a all. And payables invoice type. If you want to specify specific invoice type, you can specify, or else by default system is taking as a standard. If you want to add additional invoice types, yes, you can add. Receivables transaction types, you may keep it as all, or you may select specific transaction type. If you want to select specific, you can go to so only include, and you can include specific transaction type. And trading partners. So we are going to do the settlement between which is supplier and customer, that you have to specify. Under select supplier section, select our supplier. Our supplier name is X Corp, and select site also. Customer also same. Select X Corp. It will fetch the full name. And select customer site. And go to letters. When you complete this settlement, if you want to send any notification to specific user, you can use this section. So generate netting letter. Set the language. Select as American English. And send letters by email. You can enable and you can set to whom the email should go. The netting related letter should go to this email, and it should represent it is from whom. And from name, okay, reply to. This is how you can just input this details. Accordingly, emails will trigger, and it will appear as it is from this email ID and person name. And if they want to respond to that, you may specify reply to email ID also, but not mandatory. So if you don't want to send any email, you can disable. Just remove this data and disable. So this is how you can define the netting agreement. So the key point here is parties. And party related, which transaction system has to select by following which criteria you can clearly define. Now click on save and close. You must select a language to print the netting letter. We selected, it is not recognizing. Select one more time. Save and close. Save it. Policy with the check option violation. Let's try to create. In some instances, it doesn't work. X or now save and close. Doesn't work in this. If you are getting that error message, check with option violation. There is nothing violation in this. Fine. This we have to test in the other environment. Okay. Just make a note. So we completed setups and we recorded transactions, and these tasks are pending. We'll try in the different instance. Else we'll just sign out and sign in, and we'll check once again. There is no violation. Still it is throwing that message. Transactions date from oldest. Anything you can choose on what base it has to fetch. You can select trading partners. Okay, say save and close. If it works, okay, or else we'll try in the other instance. Yes. So netting agreement. Okay, created. So don't think based on the drop down option what I selected. No, no need to change any value, but ideally it should work. Looks earlier it was not synchronized properly. Now agreement created. Now we have to perform the settlement. So go to manage netting settlement. Manage netting settlements. Go to this task. Click on plus icon. By using the netting agreement, we are going to create the settlement. Click on plus icon. Select our legal entity and select our agreement here. This specific agreement. Select X Corp is our agreement which we created. If you want to update the settlement name, yes, you can update. I want to take agreement name as a settlement name, and transaction due date. Till this date of due transaction, system will fetch. Yes, with this date we have a transaction, the receivables. So from under two dates, you can specify the range optional fields, accounting data accept. You no need to change anything here. Click on save and close. Now the settlement name we given as a XCorp. Search. Here you can see status. Click on refresh. You can see status is selected. It means system selected eligible transactions from payables and receivables for settlement purpose. If you want to review those transactions and if you want to take some action, click on download. This is ADFDA spreadsheet. Just click on this download settlement. Save on the desktop and open. Connect. We don't need any latest version. Skip. Now, from receivable side, system is fetching the transaction with the X corporation with the $25,000. Select payables sheet. There you can see which transaction system is fetching from payables. Say for example, system is fetching 5 invoices from the payables, 4 invoices from the receivables. If you want to exclude any one of the transaction in the settlement, here you can double click. This invoice will be excluded. System will not use for settlement. So this is how you can exclude specific payables invoice or receivables transaction by using this exclude. So system will ignore that transaction for settlement. So that's how you can specify. So you can just say exclude, then you can go to netting settlement and click on upload settlement. So system will consider, so this transaction should not be used in the settlement process. That's how it is. Now I'm not selecting to exclude. Reason we have only one transaction from payables and receivables. So now you can review. After reviewing, if you do any changes, then go to netting settlement and click on upload settlement. Since we didn't do any changes, no changes will be updated. If you do changes, just take that action. Otherwise, just you can come here and you can review and you can close it. You no need to go to netting settlement and no need to click on upload settlement when you don't do any changes here. So hardly the changes what you can do is excluding some transaction. That's how it is. Here you can see total payables 10,000, total receivables 25. The proposed netting is 10,000. We can settle max 10,000. Just close it. Now refresh. go to actions and say submit settlement. After once you review, you can submit the settlement. Why we are reviewing? If required, we can exclude few transactions. Now select the settlement what we created and go to actions, say submit settlement. Now system will perform the netting with AP and AR transactions. As we discussed, system will create netting payment and netting receipt with a 10,000. Refresh and check the status. See the status. It's a created receipt and payment, and it is performing the clearing also for the payment and receipt. Now see the status settled. If you want to review which transactions are involved in the settlement, again you can download the same spreadsheet and you can review. Now directly we'll review in the instance. Just click on done. Here, go to manage receipts. Customer is X corporation and check any receipt is created. Yes, system created on receipt with a 10,000 by using receipt method as APR netting. Open this receipt. Created against the transaction 3001. Receipt method is netting, means it is a dummy payment. And if you look at the transaction, still 15,000 the X corporation has to pay. Reason we create a transaction with 25. Now settlement up to 10, remaining 15,000 is due from this customer. Now switch to payables to review netting payment which is created by system. Go to payments workbench. Manage payments. Supplier name is, or say party name is X corporation. Check. So payment also created. Open. So paid invoice 1111. Against that invoice, system created payment. Payment type you can see as a netting. When you create the payment, when you look into the payment type drop down, you can see manual, quick, refund. But automatically system creates type as a netting. This will not be available to create through manual process. Since system followed netting process, it is populating the payment type as a netting. So this is how we can perform netting. Okay. I was supposed to update as a pending. Okay. Ignore that message. So these are the setups we have to perform to support this netting process. Once the setups are available to execute, you may create the sample invoice from AP and AR, and you can create the netting agreement and you can perform the settlement. The result system will create netting payment and netting receipt. You can add additional task as you can say assign create also. If it is a fresh instance, you have to create and assign. So assign or create netting role. That is the story of netting, APR netting. Now we'll pick other topic. So let's talk about customer refund. How to handle the customer refunds. How to handle the customer refunds. We'll see. So when you talk about customer refund, maybe customer returned material. Because of that return, we may have to refund the amount back to the customer. Say customer paid and we are going to return. Other case could be, there could be some excess amount which we received from the customer that we may refund. It may be based on sales returns, you are going to refund the equivalent amount, or it could be the case where we received excess amount from customer and we are going to refund that amount. If it is a sales returns based refund, we perform the refund against the credit memo. When sales returns takes place in the order management, system creates credit memo invoice in the receivables. Against that credit memo, you can perform the refund. If it is related to some excess amount or customer paid twice, in those cases, we don't need any credit memo. Directly, we can perform the refund activity. Okay. First, we'll see what setups are required to implement the customer refund. So, or else before setups, let's talk about the simple case to execute the customer refund. We'll take the case as one transaction, $9,000. Say we received 10,000 from the customer. Means we create receipt with the 10,000. So out of 10,000, we can apply only 9,000. Apply 9,000. Then the transaction will be closed. And remaining $1,000 will be available as unapplied. Say you contacted customer informed to refund that amount. Customer informed to refund the amount. Then you have to perform the refund. When you perform the refund, automatically system creates invoice in AP against the customer. The reason we cannot pay from receivables to customer. Receivables, we can receive the payment from customer, but we cannot pay. Payments always should flow from payables application. Whenever you perform the refund activity within the receivables application, automatically system will create invoice in the payables. From payables, we make the payment to customer. So when you perform refund, system creates it will create invoice. The invoice type it will take as a payment request. It means the receivables department requesting payables department to make the payment. What request is coming from receivables to payables? Payment request in AP. System will convert customer as a not exactly supplier as a party. System can convert customer as a party automatically. We no need to take any action. We'll see the process. If you want to refund amount against any receipt, we have to make sure we remitted that receipt to bank. Say remit receipt. If you don't perform the remittance against the receipt, remittance means sending the payment to bank or say sending the check to bank. If you don't send check to bank, there is no opportunity to encash the check. So that is the reason in the system also it is a mandatory. If you want to perform the refund against any receipt, the receipt status should be remitted. So this is the case we are going to execute. We'll create the transaction with the 9,000, receipt with the 10. We'll apply 9, remaining 1,000 will remain as unapplied. Say customer is asking us to refund and we have to remit the receipt, then you can perform the refund. When you perform the refund, system will create payment request invoice in the payables against the customer. To the same customer you can pay from payables. To implement the solution, what setups are required from the system side? When you perform the refund, to capture the refund amount, we need one receivable activity. We'll create one receivable activity for refund purpose. So create receivables activity. And what should be the minimum amount? We may not refund $1, $2. To refund $1, what are the efforts you put? Maybe $10. So that is the reason we should set minimum refund amount which we are willing to initiate. That we have to set up. Say set minimum refund amount at our BU level. When you say BU, receivable system options. So set minimum refund amount in system options. And who is going to perform the refund? The person should have a approval limit to perform the refund activity. So that we have to set as a approval limits. That we have to set as a approval limits. Here in the receipt write-off, we have set approval limit. The same applicable here also. Then make a note as create approval limits to perform the refund. First, we'll go and complete these setups, then we'll execute this process. Create on receivables activity. Search for receivables activities. Click on plus icon. Select our business unit. Say refund. Select activity type as refund. and provide refund related account. Here you can use any one of the refund account, no issues. When we are part of implementation project, client will give detailed accounts based on their business scenarios, which they are handling. So there is no code combination with this company and account. Let's create. Set minimum refund amount in the system options. Go to system options. Receivable system options. Select our business unit. There is some issue in the environment, so we added one more E. The same name, it was not allowing us to complete rapid implementation setups. Fine. Go to cash processing tab. Here is one field to set minimum refund amount. Say minimum refund amount is $10. Save and close. Done. Now, the self-approval limits you cannot set from the same user. For the same user, you cannot set approval limits. From the same user, for the same user, you cannot set approval limits. Now we have to log into instance with a different user to set the approval limits. The task name is approval limits. Search for approval limits. Here is the task. Manage approval limits. Click on plus icon. Username is ERP tree. So document type. We are going to perform the refund. It may be credit memo based refund or without credit memo. You may perform the refund. Document type remains same. Select the refund you are going to perform in which currency. And for this specific user, what is the limit? Anyway, organization level itself, we have a minimum should be 10. Here we may specify 11 to $10,000. Save and close. Even if you set 1 to 10,000, anyway, organization level, we have a limit not to refund if it is less than $10. Okay. Now we'll create the transaction and we'll execute the process. Say create transaction. So we are going to create the transaction with the $9,000. Say complete and close. Created 3,000. 2 is the transaction number. We'll create the receipt with the 10,000. Create receipt. Select receipt method. The receipt number 111233. The received amount is $10,000 and received from Max Corporation. Select site. Say submit and apply. So to apply this receipt on open transactions, click on add open receivables. The transaction reference number is 3002. Search. Yes, transaction is available with $9,000. Select the same. Click on add. Click on done. Now save it. Now, if you look at the receipt status, it's a confirm. Now we have $1,000 as an applied. Say customer is asking to refund. With the confirmed status, if you try to perform the refund, it will not work. You go to more, you have a issue refund. It's grayed out. The reason, this receipt doesn't have any eligibility to perform the refund. So for that reason, this receipt we have to remit. Once remittance is complete, remittance means sending the check to bank, sending the payment information to bank. So receipt number is 112233. This receipt we are going to remit. So go to task list, and here we have a receipt remittance section. Click on create receipt remittance batch. You don't see the full name, but that is a batch. Click on create receipt remittance batch. We are creating receipt remittance batch. So give the criteria, with what criteria you want to pick the receipts for remittance purpose. Select receipt class and required method. And that method is defaulting. Whatever the information is associated with the same method. Now here, by following this criteria, whatever the receipts are available, you can find, you can pick which receipt you want to remit. We know the receipt number, that is 112233. Check. Select. Click on apply. Click on done. Now save and close. So we created a remittance batch. Say okay. Now go to manage receipt remittance batches. Next task, second task. Now find the same. So here is the batch, whatever we created. Now this batch we have to approve. Okay, we have to approve. It's a manual action. There is no workflow behind it. Manual action. So system will verify. Here we have set approval limits for current user. Whether this user has approval limits as per the configuration, that system will check. Since this user has limit up to 10,000, okay, 10,000, it will allow when you just perform the refund. Now this action is just very manual action. Just you have to click on the approve. You can see completed approval. Okay. And the other point is this approval and this approval are both are not same. This is a manual action. There is no relation with this setup. So this setup will trigger whenever you perform the refund. When you are trying to do that action, it will take. So this approval and this approvals are totally different. Now we perform the approval. Just you have to click manually, system will accept. So when you perform the refund activity, that time system will check whether these approvals are available for that user to perform the refund or not. So this approval is just manual approval. Any user can click on approve, it will accept. There are no configuration for this approval where system will validate. It's a manual action. Who has access to this page, that person can click on approve. So that's how it works. When we talk about these approvals, whatever we configured, that will come into the picture whenever you perform the refund activity. Then system will check which user is submitting, what is the limit that user has, that system will verify. Now when you click on approve for this batch, this is just a manual action. Now we completed a remittance. We'll check the receipt status. Go to manage receipts. Receipt number is 112233. Here is the our receipt. It's a different customer receipt also we have with the same number. Here is our receipt. The receipt status is remitted. Now since it's remitted and current user got approval up to 10,000 to perform the refund, this user will be able to complete the refund activity. And when you create the refund, make sure the payables periods are open. When you perform the refund, system is going to create invoice in the payables application. So check payables periods are open. Yes, it's open. That is the reason we were able to perform the APR netting also. But you just depending on like when you are testing, you make sure the period status in the payables application. Now in this environment, yes, the periods are open. Directly we can perform the refund activity. So here is a receipt. Go to actions, select more and click on issue refund. So how much amount is available as unapplied, that amount system will take as a refund. So here unapplied amount is 10,000. The same amount it is defaulting as a refund. You don't want to refund 1,000, you want to refund $500. Yes, you can update. The remaining amount is 1,000 available in this receipt. If you want to refund full amount, you can refund. You may refund partial amount also. Let's refund $1,000. And customer party site. When you create the customer, if you don't fill complete details, most of the fields, you don't get this number here. You don't get this number. See here, it is showing max. How it is showing, we will just go and review that. Go to manage customers. Customer name is Max Corporation. And open the customer site. Here, system is taking the site name Max. If you don't provide site name here by thinking it is optional, by thinking it's optional, if you don't provide, you can create the transaction receivables, but when you perform refund, it will not display anything here. When you are performing the refund, system will not display the site. You can just see if this site name field you provided some text. Without providing this text, you can create the transactions with this customer, but when you are performing the refund, you will have a challenge. So make sure for every customer you create, you are providing the site name, even the field is optional. And another important point is you have to make sure the BU level, you have a location. So BU level, you have a location. When you are doing certain transactions which flows between the applications, those will have a validation. Not only this, even if you create expense report in the expense application, if you are sending that expense report information to payables as expense report, system will have such kind of verification. So make sure your BU level you have a location. So go to manage business units. So make sure you have a location. I'm selecting the site and how you are going to refund to the customer. So these payment methods are coming from payables. From payable side, what are the payment methods we can see? The same you can see from here. So we are going to refund through check. So that's how you can specify these details. Say okay. So when you click on save, system will have a internal, the process will trigger. There is a programming that system system will trigger it, and it will create invoice in the payables application. That invoice number it will show here as a reference number. And if customer, not customer, say business unit level, if no location, this doesn't work. Make sure you have a location at business unit level. And when you talk about customer, so to fill the data in this action, So make sure site name field has some text. These are the 2 points. Now save it. So now system will create invoice in the payables. That invoice number it will display here. So this is invoice number which system generated in the payables. From here you can review the invoice details. Click on application reference number, and in the payables this is invoice number, the supplier or party, site address. See the invoice type what system created in the payables. Payment request means receivables department is requesting to process the payment to their customer. Field is supplier or party, but reality customer. So within the receipt, what are the customer data we have? The same system is taking and creating as a party. Now here we have a customer name Max Corporation with the same name system is creating party for payables application. So save and close. Switch to payables, we'll see directly from payables. Go to invoices task. So here is the invoice which is coming from payables. X Corporation is not supplier. There is no site also. If supplier, we can have site. Now Max Corporation is not a supplier. Max Corporation is customer. Automatically system created the customer as a party. Okay, you see here, it is not displaying any source also, because that is created automatically through programming, which you can call as some API process. Now open this invoice. You can see the details like how system is treating. Now system is treating the Max Corporation as a party. Party site, customer site. There is no supplier site. Max Corporation is not a supplier. So here you can see all the details, payment request. Just based on the due date, you can process the payment. This is how just you can handle the customer refund. Done. Fine. So revenue recognition. It takes time if we start now. Anyway, it's almost 9 o'clock. So that's all for today. If you have any questions, please stay back. We'll discuss. One second. Yeah, if you have any questions, please go ahead. Fine. Looks no questions. We'll connect tomorrow same time.